especially in the toilets at the shopping centres, is this ever going to end? Will it ever stop? And,
and it's funny that now that they sample other songs you've already heard, isn't it? They actually sample a hit that was in the 80s or something.
I don't know.
They use those same things you've heard again and again. You're like, well, this is madness.
My taste sort of stopped in the 60s with Brazil 66 and Frank Sinatra and the greats of that time. I did cover
Sweet
them.
Poison.
And well, yeah, I didn't like them much either.
That's Scotty Phillips' band.
Scott.
Yeah.
Please don't call him Scotty.
I know it. Actually, I sent him an SMS only today, and I was careful not to put Y on the end of it there. Isn't that funny? Now, I did have a great question for you there. I'm picturing the era when you mentioned they were kind of like sheds back then. Because if I was to
clubs, yes.
Clubs, yeah. So what I'm interested in is when you see an old photo of, say, Kirra Beach, there are hundreds of people on the beach when it seemed like it was so difficult to get to places. I lived right down the Currumbin Valley, and the road itself is a struggle to do it. But if you were in a 1951 Chev or something, if you look back at photos of events, some of these, big events that you were at, but there were still hundreds of people. It was like the more difficult the place was to get to, or just like television now, there's a million stations, so everyone just they'll have a few viewerships.
Sure.
But back in the day, there was 3 to 4.
Yes.
And everyone watched these 4 channels.
Well, the 729 Club, that was when there were only 3. That's when I was part of the Review 20 of a show called Review 61 in 1961, and there were 10 girls and 10 boys, and I was singing third girl, which was fabulous because I was singing all these wonderful harmonies, and we were doing some really wonderful things. And we'd go after the show, which was usually, we taped it on a Friday night, and it was shown on a Sunday, and virtually the traffic stopped because everybody watched. Digby Wolf was the compere. And we'd go to the 729 Club, which was Channel 7, Channel 2 and Channel 9, and that's all there was. And after I'd done about 3 years with the choir, I actually joined J.C. Williamson's and played the lead in a musical called Boys from Syracuse. And while I was away, Channel 10 came on air, and they ran a vote with the public to ask who they'd like to see on the new channel, and I came top of the list. So they gave me a daily show. That's when I did Girl Talk every day for 4 years.
Wow, I saw a great photo of you online. There's a great black and white photo of you from your show sitting there.
The Girl Talk days.
It's magic. Why? Okay, can I ask you this? I like to ask people who, clearly you're at the top of the country. Why did you think you were good? What was your inner feeling of how come? Did you see things?
I didn't think I was good, but I certainly had the gift of the gab, and I can always talk. And I think I've had a grasp of language, and particularly English language. And I just think I didn't think anything of it. I just was perhaps one of the first women on television to be natural on camera, where the other women would say, and today we have a parade from David Jones, and they'd try and be really pretty and very, very nice, whereas whatever my day was like, I was real, I suppose. And when my mother, for instance, I got a telegram to say she'd been taken to hospital, and I went on camera and said, look, I'm feeling really bad today. My mother has just been taken to hospital. And I would tell them how I felt if it was that bad, Certainly I'd try to put on an act otherwise. I always tried to come across as positive, because that was the thing I always wanted to do, was to make the ordinary housewife realise she could do anything she wanted to, because in those days, it was even quite shocking for a woman to go out to work once she had children. I mean, it's laughable today, but that's how it was. And I wanted to show them there were horizons, that anything they wanted to do, they could do if they wanted to. I mean, I probably put a lot of my viewers off because they went out. But I've always felt that. I feel very strongly about women's freedoms, and because my father was so controlling, and he wanted to know exactly where we were, and my mother, and she had to be there to put the dinner on the table exactly when he got home, and it made me rebellious about a woman's place in the home. I'm very, very grateful and fortunate to have sons like Scott and Mark who accept me as I am. They never criticise me. They never tell me what a bad mother I certainly was at one stage, where I was working constantly, and all sorts of things that I think, oh, how could I possibly have done that? They've never held that up to me, and I love them for it, because I think that's the greatest treasure of all. If you can have relationships with your immediate family, I think that counts more than anything. And I'm sure your boys have grown old enough to realise that if you've got an instinct to, I need to work, a drive.
Yeah, like for instance, my wife loves to do what she loves to do, you know, and sometimes I wish, I said it today on a different interview. Sometimes wish I was that guy that worked 38 hours and just went home and watched footy, and then on Sunday I mowed the grass. But I can't. An instinct decided I should be doing more, you know.
That's as boring as batshit.
I know.
Do that.
But they seem so happy, those guys, you know. So
I don't think so. I think happiness is another thing we have to talk about. I think philosophically, if we try to go for happiness, we're going to be disappointed. I don't think that's what this world is all about. This world is about improving ourselves, whatever that consists of in your own mind. To me, that means doing unto others. And I think, unfortunately, the things that are missing now in the youth that I notice is a sense of feeling for the other person, of understanding where they're coming from, of not barging at them in the shopping centre so that you have to be the one to step aside, about not grabbing the thing before somebody else. It's thinking of other people as well as yourself, and I maybe that's missing in education at the moment, I think.
Yeah, or even the for the first time in history now, we don't think of our little suburb or the people we know as our tribe. So it's like, well, I saw that person on YouTube, or I saw that person on Big Brother or something. That's the way the real world actually, people may think that that's what the real world is, but it might not be the way in Southport. You know, it's a wild sort of place.
I do agree. I think social media has totally changed everything. I think we're much more open to everything. The trouble is, it also lets in some pretty difficult things as well. Children who get bullied on social media, who kill themselves. I mean, to me, personally, Scott has set me up on Facebook, and I do occasionally go onto it. But I think there are lots of things these days that can become addictions. I think these games on telly and Facebook and tweets and all those things, and alcohol and cigarettes and all the things that we've got, and drugs, okay, there's so many traps now that are going to influence your brain. And so I think it's vital in the coming years that people recognise the things that are going to grab them and keep them on a certain line of thought. I think you have to expand your brain. You have to expand your knowledge. You have to include everyone in your brain, not necessarily in your life. I think you can be solitary and still have a feeling of expansion towards human beings.
We're strange. Aren't we a strange animal? You just said all these addictions. And we are just so different to the next thing, to be addicted to. If you were to look at walk down the street and everyone is holding a phone.
Absolutely.
What an addiction.
Absolutely.
Just everyone is staring at the thing. And I always say it, if you were an alien looking down at the sky, you'd go, why are they smoking? What's that thing they keep putting in their mouth? There's like direct smoke in there. Why the phone thing? Like what, if you were to be an alien and observe these human beings, like they do some weird thing.
You see, the hardest thing in the entire world, if you're looking for the most difficult thing you can do, that's to control your own mind. Yeah. That's the whole secret, actually, of life, is to actually get control of that mind. Because if we're to believe the philosophers, we're not only mind and body, we're also soul. And that particular thing that we call soul is the one that feels for other people, that gives a mother a love for her baby, that gives a father the feeling of protecting his young. Those things are what actually in the last analysis count. And all these other things we do to try and take our minds, and I'm just as bad, I'm addicted to television. I find if I've got nothing to do, I'm going to lay on the couch and watch television, and it's just escaping. And so I still have lessons in piano, and I still paint, and I still spin and weave, and I still try and do the odd gig, which I did with Denise Drysdale last year. It was the last gig I did in Logan. But the thing is that there are so many things in this life, so many good books, so much wonderful poetry, so much divine music, that I think things are getting now evolved into the lowest common denominator. And I think that's a pity. I think we're losing language. I think we're losing our appreciation of beauty. And everything is becoming uglier, in my opinion. I think music is becoming uglier. And while some of it's great, I'm not saying all of it, but some of it is the lowest common denominator. We're talking about sexual activities rather than poetry, aren't we? Let's do it on the road, So this is going to our lower self. And I think as a community of humans on a very small planet, which from Pluto apparently is a blue dot, we're just a very small planet now. We have the ability now to circuit the Earth in how quickly, the satellites are going round just before the hour is up. So we've got to, I think, in education, I think it's going to be important to talk to children about those greater issues.
Can you believe all this, everything you just spoke about happened in the last 50 years?
That's right.
The ability for me to take a photo and send it through the sky.
Exactly.
What wizardry. And have it received instantly and then change our culture just within 5 years.
Absolutely.
Change our human. Can you believe? And I think I said it to Scott Phillips when he was on this podcast show like a year, 18 months ago. Why us? Why, for all the people that have come before us, and everything was kind of the same up until only 50 years ago. And then bang, cars, blah, blah, blah. And we're the ones that are experiencing this thing.
Well, according to a philosophy I've been following for some 50 years, we're on an upward yuga, an upward cycle. And we are going to get to a stage in the next couple of 100 years of telepathy being common, of being able to actually think things and someone you want will pick up your thought. And who knows what the developments are going to be. As you said, things are advancing at such a huge rate that, they're even talking about maybe we'll never need actors anymore because they'll just do cartoons which look real and look like real actors, which we've seen. And so I think there are a lot of changes coming. I'm rather glad I'm of an age where I'm not going to actually see a lot of it, thank goodness. Although, as a great believer in reincarnation, I'm probably going to cop it again if I don't get off. But the thing is that we have to educate people, I think, to look for more than just those surface things. What do you think?
I think